Hello and welcome to The Last Tackle. I've got two titans of the game alongside me, in Adrian Morley and Paul Sculthorpe. Gents, thanks for coming in. Right, we're going to start with a statement from the Betfred Super League and the RFL, which was released this morning, about what the shape the Betfred Super League might have next season, because of course the plan is to go to 14 clubs. Just going to have to stick my glasses on, fellas, okay. So, what it says, 12 clubs have met the deadline for lodging a formal expression of interest in joining the process for the proposed expansion of the Betfred Super League to 14 clubs in 2026. Now, the club grading system will determine the first 12 places as previously, and also to form the basis for the considerations of a panel that will make the decisions on places 13 and 14. Lord Kane will lead this committee, and there's 6 others. So the extra 2 clubs will be picked on the club grading, but we're going to look at other criteria as well, including budget forecasts and finance and performance as well. So 12 clubs have expressed an interest. I can tell you, we don't know exactly, but Hull FC have announced that they are one of the 12 clubs that have expressed an interest. They have said that it's a precautionary measure. So there is a number of Super League clubs who've said they want to be part of the process, just in case they don't make the full IMG criteria. There's a number of Championship clubs, and I believe there's a very ambitious team from Division 1 as well. First of all, your reaction to this then?
Well, if that's the way the rugby league going, then we've just got to abide by it and go from there. But I think it's a good process to assess all the clubs who potentially want to play in the Super League. I'm not sure there's enough talent to go around to supplement all them clubs, but we'll just have to wait and see. But it's interesting about you said about Hull applying. I'm not sure Hull would need to apply. A couple of Super League clubs, I would imagine, obviously Salford and maybe Castleford.
Well,
and
we could do a whole show on Salford, couldn't we? Yeah?
We could. So yeah, I'm not sure Hull's thought process there, but they've done it now. I think Hull will be fine. But it is interesting, you know, for them clubs, and particularly the Championship 1 club, to potentially be in the big league. It's quite exciting. So be interesting to see who does get picked, and it will be obviously a different look next year, and hopefully we'll give a little bit more spark and an exciting competition.
We'll find out on October the 16th. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree. Firstly, as a player, I think I agree with Moz on the talent pool. I think we see a real split within Super League already in the top versus the bottom. You know, we see some of the teams who've really struggled this year. Bringing 2 more teams in from a division below, is it going to give us more games of dead rubber? And that's my big concern. We know we've got to do something with the game. We know we've got to grow it.
Would it not be better than limp fixtures, though, surely? Enough of
you know, well, that's it. You know, you get feedback from the fans of we're sick of seeing these games. We're sick of seeing repeat fixtures. And I agree with it. And do you know what? It'd be interesting. I've got a funny idea who it could be in the League One club who potentially apply. And you know, we talk about expansion, about getting out of the M62 corridor, and potentially that's a club who could do that. Based on, you know, they've got investment and players and ability to sign players. So we want expansion. We want the game to grow, you know, across the nation. But it's got to be able to fulfil it on the field. But
at least we're having these discussions about the game,
and
not just thinking, everything's rosy. Let's just carry on.
Well, we know it's not rosy, Mark, and we know we've got to do something to keep developing the game and further develop the game. And this is, as you say, at least something's being done.
Yeah.
Because look, the 3 of us love rugby league. You 2 live and breathe it, and you know, I think we all agree we've got to do something, haven't we? Yeah,
that's right. And yeah, well, we don't want to be negative on the decision. It's been made, end of story. We've got to crack on with it now. But the teams who are coming up, very, very exciting. There could be teams in there who've never even been in Super League in the whole history of their club. So it is exciting. You know, there's a number of possibilities. Another French team could potentially come in. Another Yorkshire team, Midlands. Who knows? London get our capital team back in the Super League. So it's going to be an exciting process. It's going to be an exciting Super League. So until we see who the teams are, until we see what the product's like, let's just get behind it. And you know, there's too many knockers of our sport. We are trying something different. Let's get behind it and see how we go.
I think there's conversations as well. It's not just about teams and clubs that are in top flight and that. It's about how do we generate more players? Is it the player pathways? You know, that have changed over the years since we played.
But there needs to be investment in academies, isn't it?
Massively, because you know what? They're your future Super League stars, your England players of the future, and young kids, you know, who were, you know, we've maybe lost a generation of fans. You know, young kids that are coming through, they're your next fans who bring their kids, and you've got to continue that. So you know, there's whole areas across the game that we've got to improve. You know, it's not just about top flight and what clubs are in Super League.
Yeah, well, let's move to, as I said, before we move to matters on a pitch, just got to mention Scully played in the Betfred British Masters Pro-Am last week. And you played with the eventual winner, Alex Norren. Now, he'd not actually won a tournament for 7 years. I believe it's your words on that Pro-Am.
He did tell me that. I had a word with him. Give him a bit of leadership. And
how good was it to play in the Pro-Am?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I've been fortunate to play with Betfred. I think the last 5. You know, to play with them guys, and you know, we obviously Eddie Hemmings was in our team. You know, the voice of Super League, and me and Eddie were talking and just saying, where else, you know, what other sports do you get to play on the stage with the best players in the world? And golf is one that you can do that, and you know, the Betfred Pro-Am is a special occasion. But to play with Alex and then watching for the next 4 days of leading the competition and then eventually winning it. What a great guy as well. You know, so I mentioned it in the interview on the course. Just so giving with his time and his knowledge. You know, passing on some great tips. He did me a few nice little touches through the 5 hours that I was with him, and just a great guy.
Well, we had some great people playing the Pro-Am. Michael McIntyre, Joe Root, Josh Butler. You came out with the best line, by the way. Drives for show, puts for dough.
I said that, Mark, because as I played a perfect hole and then missed the putt, you said that was the bit that you filmed, and unfortunately...
that was the only bit we filmed. Scully missing the putt.
Yeah.
Right, let's turn our attention to the Betfred Super League and the men's Betfred Super League. Just 4 games left. I was lucky enough to be at the golf. I was watching the golf during the day on Thursday. And then Thursday night, I watched Leeds versus Hull KR. I tell you what... Your old club, that was a big performance, wasn't it, against Hull KR?
It was a huge performance. It was a big statement. Hull KR have been by far and away the best side in Super League this year, and Leeds Rhinos have been climbing and building, and this was I think the highlight of their season without a doubt. They didn't just beat Hull KR, they really did school them. I thought Hull KR really did have an off day, so I'm not reading too much into it, but you still can only play what's in front of you, and Leeds Rhinos beat them in every department, so their confidence is flying, and it's good for Super League that you get a good strong Leeds Rhinos team, and they'll be confident of not knocking everyone off this year. It's good to see.
You just get a feeling Brad Arthur is beginning to get things right.
Yeah, definitely. I think you can see with his demeanour, and he's just changed the culture there, the mindset, the discipline, and it's telling. I mean, for me, Moz says the best in a year. I think it's probably the best Leeds performance in the last 5-7 years. Dominant, absolutely dominant, and they look like a team that's real confident, that can go on and do things this year. So. Yeah, massive performance. Hull KR, a couple of chinks in their armour just recently, and I think Wilco mentioned it on Sky on their performance. They've been at a level for so long now. They've obviously played more games than anybody, getting to the Challenge Cup final, winning the Challenge Cup final. Just that bit of mental fatigue maybe at this time of year to try and keep them standards so high, and maybe they're just having a bit of a dip. Teams go through that throughout the year, but it's probably the wrong time of year to go through that. But I'm sure Willie Peters is not concerned, but it doesn't get any easier this week. They host St Helens, who are in great form.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later on. Right, Friday night, Leeds 38, Salford 6. Look, in all the uncertainty around Salford, and we don't know what's going on at all I would say is our Salford fans were brilliant on Friday night at Lee, and it's the Salford fans I feel sorry for the most, because no one wants this uncertainty.
No, you're right, and fair play to the players. They go out there and they had a dig. The effort was there. You can't really fault the effort, but just not got the players or the talent, unfortunately. And it's a sad state of affairs when Salford fans were coming up to me saying that was the result. We didn't get more than 40 put past us. That's how sad the situation is for Salford. So we've spoke about it numerous times. Very, very sad. And you're right. The Salford fans, they don't deserve this. Let's hope the club can find a way out of this mess.
Yes, it certainly is a mess at the moment, and it's the fans I feel sorry for the most. Also, we mentioned St Helens. That's just one defeat in 10 now. St Helens 16, Hull 10.
Yeah, another great win for Saints, obviously against another top 6 side. Pushing real now for that top 2. Obviously, play Hull KR, as I said, this week, and then the big one against Wigan, which could take them that second spot. So, yeah, it was. I thought they set off like a house on fire. I think Morgan Knowles has been outstanding this year. Great try to kick them off, and then I thought they kind of lost the way a bit. Went a bit shifty on attack and failed to score points. But I think a lot of that, I've put it in my column this week. I think over Matt Rue's decision to put Tristan Saylor back to 6 and drop Johnny Lomax. Obviously, Jack Wellesby's got to come back into the team, for the business end of the year. But I just think they'd really got a settled half-back situation with Moses and Johnny Lomax, and kind of Tristan Saylor coming into that and Johnny dropping out. I think they kind of lost the way a bit. So I imagine it'll be back to normal this week with Owen Dagnall unfortunately pulling an hamstring, and I imagine you'll see Tristan Saylor on the wing and business resumed as normal. But a massive win.
Is the difference for say compared to when we were talking in March, April and even May, is it the defence? Is that the difference?
No, I think the defence has always been good. I think they're a club who pride themselves on defence, and I know the Wellow coaches that defence is number one, defence wins games. When you've got the likes of Morgan Knowles, Matty Lees, leading that defensive line, and absolutely brutal line speed and aggression, defence has never been a problem. What has been a problem is posting points, and for me, a lot of that had come from the spine of the team. That half-back situation where Moses and Byers settled in there, he knows his job, just direct play, he's got a great kicking game, and let Johnny Lomax do the silky things on the edges, and it was working. It was creating points for Saints, and I just think I know I've seen the interviews from Wellow, and it was a tough decision he had to make, and he said, I'll stand by whatever results come from it. But for me, I think it was probably one that it maybe go a different way, but they got the 2 points, and when you don't always play brilliant and you get the points against the better teams, it's a sign of a good side.
It was interesting to listen to Johnny Cartwright's comments after the game. He said, as disappointed as he was with the result, proud of the players' efforts, because they went down to the wire, really, didn't it? There was a couple of incidents. 2 minutes to go, they could have potentially sneaked a golden point, but he'll be reasonably happy, and they've still got to say they can still make the top 6.
It's between them and Wakefield, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
You look at the Hull FC side over the last few years. That
been
team
so
have absolutely
woeful.
capitulated after that Morgan Knowles try after 7 minutes, but the way they hung in there and they kept fighting and kept trying, I think
totally different team.
All credit to Hull FC.
Catalans Cass, obviously Catalans won, but we found out, haven't we, Ryan Carr's going to be Cass's head coach from next year.
Yes, big changes at Cass, and obviously made a couple of signings as well. I think they're just focused now on 2026, aren't they? It's their season's pretty much over. It's been over for a while. A few remaining games, but Catalan will be massively, obviously beat Castleford, but massively disappointed in their season. 9th at the moment, and obviously won't make the playoffs.
And more disappointment for your old club on Sunday, Warrington, and that's twice Huddersfield have beat them, and obviously we need snookers now to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, before this game there was an outside, very distant chance they could have made the playoffs, and now that's it. The season's gone, which it more than likely was going to be anyway.
Because in patches have played fantastic this season.
They have,
but unfortunately it's just been in patches.
Even in this game, for a good hour, there was the better side, and then they just, for one reason or another, they found a way to lose the game, and that's happened too many times this year, and they've been too inconsistent, and it's just been a terrible year. But for a club, you know, for the resources they've got, for the investment the owners have made, they should have been doing a lot more, not just this year. You know, the last 5-10 years. You know, that they've should be one of the big hitters in Super League, one of the big boys, and for one reason or another, as I say, they're not.
And finally on Sunday, as we approach September and October, Wigan start turning up.
Bevan French turned up, didn't he? That was the big one. And for me, they're just a completely different side with Bevan in there. You know, I think he's a bit of a comfort blanket as well for a lot of other players. He inspires other players. You know, he can create something out of nothing. And, you know, you see some of the players he come up with again. You know, it's not all about Bevan, but I think he inspires the people around him, and that's a massive win against a Wakefield side who have been in decent form and themselves pushing for a top 6.
Right, before we talk about round 24 here on a Sportsman live and exclusive last Sunday, we brought you Swinton beating Rochdale. We're back for more this weekend as we play our part in delivering more coverage of the Betfred Women's Super League than ever before.
Gaskin goes in, Gaskin scores again.
And Rhiannon Marshall scores. York hit back.
Ball back on the inside again as Kira Bennett just sidesteps her way in. York collect it, chance for Partington, gets it down. What a kick from Faye Gaskin. That is world class. Look what it means to them. Banks with a sidestep, and her again. This is mesmerising stuff from the Wigan Warriors.
We know we've got the two best teams from the competition.
The history makers, the first women's team to retain their title.
Yeah, we've had some cracking games live on the Sportsman. This Saturday we have got St Helens versus York this Saturday. And then in a couple of weeks as well, we've got York going to Leeds. So some really good game in the Betfred Women's Super League. And it's great to see the women's game growing like it is.
It is. Do you know what? There's some quality teams out there now, isn't there? And, you know, there's no one team, you know, winning everything. I think like there was in the early years of the women's game. So it's great to see, and just inspiring so many young girls to play rugby league.
It certainly is. Right then, let's talk about round 24. Thursday night, Lee Leopards versus the Castleford Tigers.
Yeah, I think Lee have been going very well. A couple of close losses in recent times. But we've mentioned Cass before. I think they're concentrating on next year now. They're accusing the rack. It's important for Lee to get back to winning ways, and I think they'll do that Thursday night. And it's a great opportunity playing the first round on a Thursday night to make a statement and let the boys have a rest of the week. And I think they'll turn up, they'll turn it on, and I think they'll put a big score on Cass.
Agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, Lee, the rest of the few players obviously were playing Salford last week as well. So Edwin Apape, who's, you know,
he's brilliant to watch.
What a player. Yamila Hanley, who's, for me this year, he's really come on as a top player in Super League. Them two are back, and I just think, you know, with the playoffs coming now and Lee sat in 5th place, they know this is a game that they've got to dominate and come out and turn it on.
Right, Friday night we have a cracker. Hull KR versus St Helens.
Yeah, what a game this is going to be. I think it's tough to call. I think you'd always say Hull KR probably with the way they've been playing, and you know it's over in Hull. But I just think Saints are in great form at the moment, running high on confidence. They've got all the bodies back as well, and as I say, a couple of chinks in that Hull KR. I'm going to go for a Saints win. I think it'll be close. I think any game between these two teams is close, but I think Saints might just pick it.
Big call.
Big call.
But it is. But I just think I still thought they would, even if they'd have played to the best of their abilities last week, I still think Leeds probably would have got them. But I just think they had a bit of an off day themselves, and I think they would have fixed things up this week. The fact that it's at home, it's really, really tough place to go and get a result there. And as good as Saints are going, I think it's going to be very close, like Scully said. But I think it's the other way, and I think KR.
And then also on Friday night, Warrington versus Salford. Well,
I think it's a no contest, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
We talk about Warrington, they'll be massively disappointed if they don't make the top 6. The 3 points behind Hull FC. Is it 3 points? 5 points?
No, 5 points.
5 points behind Hull FC.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a game that they're going to win. They've got to get them points difference up there as well. But I just don't see Warrington, making the top 6. But this game's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's terrible. Last year Salford, they went to Warrington, got the win. I think they beat them at home as well, and with what's been going on, you just can't see that. But as much as Warrington are going to win, it won't make a difference to their season, unfortunately. So it's a bit of a no contest, really. It's disappointing as that sounds. It certainly is.
3 games on Saturday. Right, this is fascinating for me. Hull versus Leeds. Hull need the 2 points to try and get the 6th spot, especially with Wakefield being at home. Leeds kind of follow up with a big away performance after putting in that huge home performance against Hull KR.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game, this, isn't it? And certainly in Hull, you'd have to say Leeds are favourites going into the game. But Hull, I think the character they showed at Saints, and as I said, back up in Humberside this week. But I think Leeds, they're 9 from 12. They've lost twice to Saints, and then that golden point to Wakefield. In great form at the moment. Lockie Miller, for me, is one of the stars of Super League. I think he's been outstanding for Leeds this year, and I've got to tip Leeds for this game.
Yeah, amazingly. If it was at Headingley, I'd say Hull have got a better chance of winning at Headingley because the home form is so dire this year. I think they've only won once in 12 months. Scully's mentioned Leeds are flying high. Confidence is flying, and I think Leeds are going to go over and get the win. It'll be tough for a while, but I think the Rhinos all day.
Right, and then we got Wakefield, Huddersfield. Huddersfield obviously had a great comeback against Warrington last week. Are we tipping Wakefield?
I think so. I think, heavy loss last week to Wigan. I think they need to bounce back, and I think they've got it in them. They've built a really good home fortress there at Wakefield. I don't think they've been beat many times there. So the fact they're at home, the fact it's Huddersfield who, although they got a win last week, they've not much to play for this year, and I think Wakefield will be a bit too hungry, and they'll get back to winning ways.
Yeah, I think Wakefield is a tough place to go, and I think they are a different side at home. Massively disappointed with that. It could be the kick that they need. That big defeat to Wigan. Huddersfield, you've got to look at them, and they must be so disappointed in the season they've had when they can turn in
the last couple of years.
When they can turn in performances. There's just absolutely no consistency, and again, what Huddersfield are you going to get this week? But I agree with Moz. I'm going to go for I just think they've got more to play for, so I'm going for a Wakefield win.
And we round off round 24 with Catalan Dragons versus Wigan Warriors. Quite a few Wigan Warriors fans are going out for this, still in the school holidays, of course.
Yeah, always a good trip, and certainly in August as well. It'd be nice down in the south of France. But Wigan will be there to do business, and I imagine on the back of that performance last week, and getting back to full strength, can't see anything past the Wigan win. They've just got, again, like Wakefield, they've got too much to play for.
4 games to go, it's getting exciting. There's a battle of who's going to finish top. Obviously, Hull KR are favourites. Who's going to finish second or third, get the all-important home tie. We don't know who's going to finish 5th or 6th yet as well. Very exciting with 4 games to go. But you fellas are not just preparing for the end of the season. I believe you're doing a huge bike ride. What are you doing? Who's it for, and how can people donate?
So I do it every year. It's for these guys, Rugby League Cares, fantastic charity. So we've done numerous rides in the past. This year we're going to Washington DC and cycling all the way to New York City.
How far is that?
It's about 450 miles, so it's about 80 miles a day.
So what, taking you a month?
Just 6 days we're doing it in. So myself, Scully, Sean Lunt, and there's about 20 of us doing the actual ride. It's always a great crack. It's very tough, but it is very enjoyable as well. So it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. So if you can give, that would be amazing. There's they're just giving details on the Rugby League Cares website, and so we've got another 10 days to get the legs going, get a bit of training in, and then we're off.
Has Moz talked you into this over a couple of beers?
Yeah.
You did a lot of cycling during lockdown, didn't you?
Yeah, I do a lot of cycling anyway. Yeah. I live on a watt bike, so it was something that was really appealing, and obviously, you know, to go from DC to New York and see some of the scenery. I found out the other day, Moz, as well, we're actually go past the steps at Philadelphia where Rocky
You're jump off a bike and run up.
Me and Moz will get a few pictures and videos on that as well. But yeah, just, you know, obviously supporting the biggest charity in Rugby League, in Rugby League Cares, and you know what they do for the benevolent fund for severely injured players, and obviously the brain injury fund, you know, which obviously people know about you know, people, ex-players suffering with dementia and what have you, and prevention going forward for player welfare. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Hopefully raise a few quid and an awareness for a great cause.
Right, gents, thanks for coming in. Don't forget the live and exclusive game in the Betfred Women's Super League on Saturday, St Helens versus York. Enjoy your rugby league.
This is my time.